are good in terms of creating a high level of technical writing outputs. And they can use their humor somehow in terms of the way they construct or design their courses. And that's the kind of identity they have. That's what we call textual identity. Another, we have the visual identity. One consideration also in doing an online class is our aesthetic value, or what we call the personal appearance, and to that of our virtual environment. How was our environment whenever we go online? Halimbawa, no, as teacher, syempre, pag pumapasok tayo sa school, natin nagtuturo tayo, syempre, we always present ourselves in a very good way kasi students emulate us as a form of a model. So tayo ay mga modelo. We are their second parents actually. Even in online class, ganun din. So it's very important that our aesthetic aspect and our visual appearance or personal appearance matters. Halimbawa, pag nag-open ka ng camera, dapat visually appealing ka pa rin. What I mean, kahit na hindi ka naligo, kasi sobrang aga nung gising, kailangan maayos pa rin ang iyong itsura whenever you're in front of a virtual class. At the same time, you need to you need to look on a certain place or corner of your house na maganda ang background somehow. Although, sa Zoom, meron tayong mga background designs na pwede nyo pong gamitin, even in some video conferencing platform like MS Teams or Google Meet. Okay? Aside from that is our behavioral identity. The way students look on us in a face-to-face modality should also be the same, and it should also be flexible in an online learning modality. Ibig sabihin, our behaviors in the virtual classroom send message about the attitude. Meaning to say, the way we communicate, the way we interact, and the way we talk our student also matters with the way how students will learn on the subject matter. Kahit na gaano kahirap pa yung subject area mo, as long as we know how to comprehensively communicate or interact with our student, yun nga lang, iba yung platform, nasa online platform like this one. Now, let's talk about the Eric Benson's brain-based learning. Why do we need to understand this? Because this would be your foundation to understand the way students learn in an online learning environment. So let's have some default principle. Number one, we tend to forget. Okay, totoo po yan, no? Ang tao, normal po na nakakalimot. Wala naman tao na kapag lahat ng information ay kanyang narinig o nabasa o nakita, it automatically store. Hindi ganon. What I mean, there are what we call short-term and long-term memories, okay? At the same time, that's the main reason why we are looking on the idea of choosing the essential competencies. Bakit essential competencies ito? Dahil merong mga competencies or topics sa mismong mga syllabus natin na hindi naman highly essential. That's why students tend to forget those. Napaka-minimal lang nung comprehension part nila or understanding on that level because it's not that important at all. That's why things are easily to be forgotten. And it's more valuable if the idea is considering the principle of the procedural memories, no? That's the idea of knowing how, and also declarative memories, which are considered to be semantic one or general knowledge, and personal recollection. Meaning to say, kahit naturuan natin ng bata na napakaraming concepts, at the end of the day, they will always learn the general one and something that matters to them. Okay? And also, very important, if it's more on the learning of the skills or competencies, it's more on procedural. The idea of how to's, mean to say how to fix, how to arrange, how to demonstrate, it's more on performance based or procedural based. Another one, by default, would be emotions drive learning, attention, and meaning making. That's true. Sabi dyan sa quote, okay, anyone who values truth should stop worshiping reason. Meaning to say, emotions really affect and influence the way students learn. The way we project ourselves or the kind of emotion that we want our student to understand and to convey will drive them to learn on something, and it will help them to fully engage on the way we deliver our lessons, even face to face or online. Okay, that's why mahalaga na at this point in time, since we are promoting authentic learning, pag sinabi natin authentic learning, it's more on the learning on the experiences, on the real context. And emotion is very important. Most especially at this pressing time, no, during the pandemic. Paano natin mapapagaan ang buhay ng mga bata, not merely compromising the quality of education. Hindi ko naman sinasabi na kailangan nating pagaanin ang lahat ng bagay para sa kanila nang wala silang natututunan, pero kailangan natin makita yung idea na the emotions that they have right now, or the anxiety, or the tensions that they are experiencing, even as teachers, can also increase the level of what we call it can also increase the level of their academic depression. Ibig sabihin, kapag depressed sila, they are experiencing anxieties and tensions sa loob ng bahay, tapos yung kanilang online class, napaka-stressful din. So, hindi nagkakaroon ng hindi natin nami-meet yung expectations ng online course o ng online learning natin in a form of a flexible delivery. Third one, the brain searches for meanings and patterns. It is one of the important reasons, again, why we need to come up with an essential competency or essential outcome. Because our brain, if you want to learn something, if you want to learn new concept, it always find meanings and patterns. Sabihin, if you want to learn something about MS Teams, no? Okay, kailangan matutunan muna natin yung mga basic skills kung paano mag-log in, mag-log out. Okay, kung paano gumawa ng password, kung paano pumunta sa ganitong site. Which we learned that because we had experience before of having our emails na ginagamit natin sa mga universities natin or sa college natin or even your personal mails. Mean to say, it always search for meanings and patterns, and that's what the brain always figuring out in terms of learning new concepts. Number 5. So, brain default number 5 is learning is aided by motion, novelty, challenge, scent, color, music, and aesthetics. Kung sa PE class nga, di ba, we don't really discuss a lot because it's more on psychomotor or performance-based. The same thing also with online learning. The same thing also with the general learning default, in which students are considered to be visual in terms of their appreciation. They can be kinesthetic, they can be tactile, they can be auditory. So those are the things that we need to consider also in terms of the way they look at our lessons, no? If we're highly textual based, okay, at ang lesson natin halimbawa ay mathematics, highly textual siya, highly computational. Tumataas yung level, bumababa yung level ng appreciation nila when it comes to aesthetics. Pwede ka kasing gumamit halimbawa ng mga videos to represent how these things are being computed or how the mathematical problems are being solved. In appreciating arts, no? Typically gumagamit tayo ng mga sample images, illustrations, virtual museums, at the same time motion pictures like video clips, so on and so forth. Then our priority of the priority of the brain right now is to survive, lalo na sa panahon ngayon. Kaya lagi nating ina-emphasize na in any form of learning, the main reason for learning is for survival. Sabi dyan, the attention is good to focus the brain but limit the strain because it can't maintain. Even in online class, kapag masyado nang marami tayong dinidiscuss, napakarami ng gusto natin ipagawa sa bata, are we still helping them to survive, or are we letting them to are we letting them to experience drastic anxieties or conflicts because we had given them so many topics, so many activity or outputs that needs to be accomplished. Again, do not overemphasize the lesson. Do not overcrowd the content because the main priority of our brain as a brain default is to survive. Kaya hindi, halimbawa, kung itong webinar na to ay isang buong maghapon, hindi ko alam kung ano mangyayari sa faculty natin afterwards, no? Baka maya after the 5 o'clock, naku, nakahiga na iba dyan natutulog na kasi sobrang pagod na pagod kahit na nakaupo ka lang at nakikinig ka in a form of a webinar. Now, always remember that in education, we always, or in creating any kind of lesson plan or lesson plan, syllabus, curriculum, everything is being aligned with the three important elements. We have there the curriculum, the assessment, and the teaching and learning activities. Napaka-importante yan. We always start with the silo or the course intended learning outcome or the program outcomes. It will go to the teaching and learning activities. After that, what's your way or what's the standard for you to evaluate the teaching and learning activities is through what we call the assessment. So those three areas, the curriculum, the teaching and learning activities, and the assessment. Because if you want to validate and to check whether our outcomes were being met or being accomplished by our student, we need to provide good learning activities at the same time appropriate assessment strategies. Now, let's talk about the different principles applicable for e-learning. So these are some of the existing principles actually for engaging in online learning. Still the principle of active learning, no? Wherein learning is not passive, we're considered to be very dynamic. Collaborative learning, it's not merely a self-paced learning, but also there's a social interaction as we go along with the principle of Vygotsky on the idea of scaffolding and also the zone of proximal development. Lagi nating sinasabi na there's always an involvement of teachers and student on the process of learning. Okay? And also constructivism on the constructive learning. Okay? I want you to appreciate this principles of Vygotskian thought. Okay? Specifically on the following. For example, let's have the first principle we have here, the commonality. Where it says here, commonality is a social act leading to identity formation, wherein sa kanyang instructional design for online teaching and learning, it's more on social and collaborative communication. We can only do that through synchronous and asynchronous online modality. For example, synchronous modality would be like this one, Zoom meeting. We can communicate live, we can socially and we can collaborate and we can socialize in a form of an online meeting. It can also be in a form of asynchronous. Halimbawa, kapag gagamit ka ng mga email, ng chat room, whenever you post your task in a Google Classroom, so that promotes social and collaborative interaction. Another one is situatedness, that learning is considered to be reflective, metacognitive, and embedded in socio-cultural context, in which in its counterpart, instructional design for online teaching and learning, we always work on activities and projects. Lagi naman natin itong ginagawa, pero nasa classroom nga lang ito, face-to-face. But